Hello everyone, and welcome back to the channel. As we continue our year in gaming series, we last left off with 1985, a truly groundbreaking year. That was the year the Nintendo Entertainment System launched in North America, bringing the video game industry back from the crash of 1983. It also introduced a brand new IP that would change gaming forever, Super Mario Bros., along with titles like Ghosts and Goblins and Hang On. So now, let's move forward to the follow-up year. 1986. The year was 1986, and it was a year filled with moments the world would never forget. Millions of Americans watched in horror as the Space Shuttle Challenger tragically exploded just 73 seconds after liftoff. On a more hopeful note, the Statue of Liberty reopened after 2 years of renovation, standing once again as a symbol of freedom. At the box office, 1986 delivered some iconic movies, including Top Gun, Crocodile Dundee, Platoon, The Karate Kid Part 2, Star Trek IV, The Voyage Home, Ruthless People, Ferris Bueller's Day Off, and Aliens. Television also saw the debut of several memorable shows, such as Perfect Strangers, The Oprah Winfrey Show, Alf, Amen, L.A. Law, and Designing Women. Music in 1986 was absolutely stacked. Songs like Papa Don't Preach, by Madonna, That's What Friends Are For, by Dionne Warwick, Gladys Knight, Elton John, and Stevie Wonder, Livin' on a Prayer, by Bon Jovi, Sledgehammer, by Peter Gabriel, Walk This Way, by Run DMC, and Aerosmith, Manic Monday by the Bangles, and The Greatest Love of All, by Whitney Houston dominated the charts. Bon Jovi released their legendary album Slippery When Wet, while Van Halen dropped 5150, their 7th studio album, and their first with new lead singer Sammy Hagar. In the world of sports, the Chicago Bears defeated the New England Patriots 46-10 in Super Bowl 20, cementing one of the most dominant teams in NFL history. Meanwhile, Mike Tyson made history by becoming the youngest heavyweight champion of the world at just 20 years old. Now let's talk about what really matters here, video games. 1986 marked another major milestone for the industry. The Nintendo Entertainment System continued its dominance in North America, fully reviving gaming after the early 80s crash. Nintendo also released 2 of its biggest IPs in Japan that would later become global legends. At the same time, a new competitor entered the scene, challenging Nintendo's dominance. And this was also the year a legendary franchise was born, one featuring vampires, monsters, and a whip-wielding hero, a series that would go on to define an entire genre. This was the year in gaming, 1986. 1. The Legend of Zelda. Nintendo continued its dominance in 1986 with the release of one of its most important and influential IPs of all time, The Legend of Zelda, which launched on February 21, 1986 in Japan. The game is set in the magical world of Hyrule, where a young boy named Link must rescue Princess Zelda from the evil warlord Ganon and recover the sacred relic known as the Triforce. Unlike Super Mario Bros., The Legend of Zelda took a very different approach. Instead of fast-paced platforming, the game focused on a medieval fantasy world filled with magic, sorcery, dungeons, puzzles, and monsters. Players were encouraged to explore a vast open world, making it one of the earliest examples of adventure-based gameplay in console gaming. The success of The Legend of Zelda would turn it into one of Nintendo's most beloved franchises, expanding into numerous sequels over the decades. Beyond video games, the series also branched out into cartoons, comic books, action figures, and, most recently, plans for a live-action adaptation. To this day, The Legend of Zelda remains one of Nintendo's most iconic and influential IPs of all time. 2. Metroid. Another major Nintendo IP released in 1986, outside of Mario and Zelda, was Metroid. Released for the NES, Metroid is an action-adventure platformer with shooter elements. Players take on the role of Samus Aran, a galactic bounty hunter tasked with infiltrating the planet Zebes to stop the space pirates and defeat their leader, Mother Brain. The Metroid series is set in a dark, atmospheric outer space world, where players explore interconnected areas, unlock new abilities, and use a variety of weapons and upgrades to progress. Unlike many games of the era, Metroid encouraged nonlinear exploration and backtracking, rewarding players for discovery rather than simply moving from left to right. Metroid became Nintendo's 3rd major IP on the NES, following Mario and Zelda, and would go on to spawn numerous sequels over the decades. Most notably, the game broke new ground by revealing Samus Aran as a female protagonist, making her one of the earliest and most iconic female lead characters in video game history. Samus's impact paved the way for future female video game icons, including Chun-Li from Street Fighter and Lara Croft from Tomb Raider. 4. Castlevania. Nintendo also found major success in 1986 by supporting strong third-party publishers, and one of the most important was Konami. Released for the NES, Castlevania put players in the role of Simon Belmont, a legendary vampire hunter on a mission to stop Count Dracula. Unlike many traditional vampire hunters who rely primarily on swords, Simon Belmont wields his iconic vampire killer whip, while also using classic tools such as holy water, crosses, and other sub-weapons to defeat enemies. Castlevania quickly became one of the most popular action titles on the NES. The game stood out for its gothic atmosphere, challenging gameplay, and horror-inspired setting. While not outright terrifying, the series blended dark fantasy and action horror in a way that felt unique at the time. The success of Castlevania would launch a long-running franchise and establish Konami as one of the strongest third-party developers on Nintendo hardware. Although we haven't seen a brand new Castlevania game in recent years, the series remains a fan favorite, and one of the most iconic vampire-themed franchises in gaming history. 5. Sega Master System. Sega, a company best known at the time for its success in arcade games, officially entered the home console market with the release of its first 8-bit console, the Sega Master System. The Master System was Sega's direct competition to Nintendo's NES. In many ways, the console was more powerful, offering sharper graphics and smoother visuals compared to its rivals. It also featured a strong lineup of games, including arcade-style experiences that showcased Sega's strengths. However, despite solid sales and quality titles, the Sega Master System struggled to gain the same level of popularity as the NES in North America. Nintendo's strong brand recognition, third-party support, and marketing dominance kept Sega from taking the lead during this generation. That said, Sega wasn't done. Just a few years later, the company would try again with a more powerful console, one that would allow Sega to compete head-to-head with Nintendo and set the stage for one of the biggest rivalries in gaming throughout the next decade. 6. Super Mario Bros. 2: The Lost Levels. While Super Mario Bros. 2 in the United States would go on to become a hugely popular Mario sequel, it wasn't actually the true sequel, at least not in Japan. After the success of the original Super Mario Bros., Nintendo in Japan developed the real follow-up, titled Super Mario Bros. 2. However, this game reused the same engine and visuals from the first game while dramatically increasing the difficulty. The game introduced brutally challenging level design, tighter jumps, stronger enemies, and one of the most infamous items in gaming history, the poison mushroom, which looks identical to a power-up but instantly kills Mario when touched. Because of its extreme difficulty, Nintendo decided not to release this version in North America, fearing it would frustrate players. Instead, the US received a completely different game that was reskinned and released as Super Mario Bros. 2. Years later, in 1993, the original Japanese sequel finally made its way to North America as part of Super Mario All-Stars under the name Super Mario Bros. The Lost Levels. To this day, The Lost Levels is remembered as one of the hardest Mario games ever made, essentially Super Mario Bros. Taken to the extreme, or as many fans call it, Mario 2.0 on hard mode. 7. Dragon Quest. One of the first and most influential JRPGs of all time was Dragon Quest, which released in 1986 in Japan. In the game, players control a heroic character tasked with saving the kingdom of Elefgard and rescuing the princess from the evil Dragonlord. Dragon Quest introduced many gameplay elements that would later become staples of the JRPG genre, including turn-based combat, exploration, leveling up, and epic fantasy storytelling. The success of Dragon Quest helped establish the foundation for Japanese role-playing games and quickly turned the series into one of the most popular franchises in Japan, spawning numerous sequels, spin-offs, and remakes. 3 years later, in 1989, the game was released in North America under the name Dragon Warrior, introducing Western audiences to the JRPG genre. Before Final Fantasy rose to global dominance, Dragon Quest was the defining JRPG franchise, and to this day, it remains one of the most important and beloved series in video game history. 8. Famicom Disk System. In Japan, Famicom cartridges were expensive, which led Nintendo to experiment with a new solution. In 1986, Nintendo released a unique add-on called the Famicom Disk System. Between 1986 and 1987, many major Nintendo first-party and third-party games were released on the Disk System. This add-on allowed players to run games on flat disk media, similar to computer floppy disks, rather than traditional cartridges. The Disk System was unique for several reasons. It offered cheaper game production, expandable storage, and even allowed players to rewrite games at kiosks, a concept far ahead of its time. However, by 1987, cartridge prices began to drop, making the Disk System less necessary. As a result, Nintendo shifted back to releasing Famicom games primarily on cartridges. Although Nintendo originally planned to bring the Disk System to North America, the idea was ultimately cancelled, and the add-on remained exclusive to Japan. Today, the Famicom Disk System is remembered as one of Nintendo's most innovative experiments. It can still be found on the secondary market, including places like eBay, and is often praised as being ahead of its time, foreshadowing the future use of alternative physical media long before compact discs became standard in gaming. 1986 was more than just another year in gaming, it was a year that defined the future of the industry. Nintendo solidified its dominance with genre-defining releases like The Legend of Zelda, Metroid, and the brutal challenge of Super Mario Bros. 2, The Lost Levels. These games didn't just push hardware, they pushed creativity, storytelling, exploration, and difficulty in ways that had never been done before. At the same time, third-party support thrived with titles like Castlevania, proving that Nintendo's success wasn't just about first-party games. Meanwhile, Dragon Quest laid the foundation for the JRPG genre, influencing countless role-playing games that would follow for decades. Elsewhere, Sega entered the home console race with the Sega Master System, planting the seeds for a rivalry that would explode in the years to come. And with experimental hardware like the Famicom Disk System, Nintendo showed it was willing to innovate, even if it meant taking risks. Looking back, 1986 wasn't just about great games, it was about building legacies. Many of the franchises introduced or expanded during this year are still shaping gaming today. And this was only the beginning. If you enjoyed this episode, be sure to like, subscribe, and comment on what your favorite game from 1986 was. In the next episode, we'll move forward to 1987, a year that would take everything built in 1986 and push it even further. Until then, thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.